Hey, are you all able to hear me? Yeah. Okay, sorry for all the technical glitch. Santa Claus cannot hear anything. Hey, hi Erin. Hello all. Okay, just give it a few more moment. Hey, Arif, just want to make sure that you are able to hear. Santa Claus, welcome to town, and I hope that you can hear me now. And oh yeah, Stanley, yeah. So welcome back. You just need to wait for a couple more of you to be shifted here. Hello, Afiq. Hey, sorry for the technical glitch. Yeah, but it's okay. We managed to get the problem solved. Okay, sure. Just give it another minute. Too early for Christmas, my dear. All right, let's continue. So, thanks, Ruben. So, if anybody's still at the old chat room, make sure that just type in a couple of message and remind them to come over here. All right. So let's talk about the frameworks that we have here. Sorry, the programming language that we have here. So there are few primary type of programming language that we use in web development. The most common one that you always hear is PHP, and then you have Node.js, which is a JavaScript backend, and you have ASP.NET, and you have Django. All right. So these are the four main one that we will use. PHP is a language by itself. Node.js is based on JavaScript. ASP.NET is based on .NET framework. So we usually, what do? We use Visual Basic or C Sharp. And then Django is a Python-based web development framework. Okay. Now, as a web developer, as a full stack developer, once you understand what is back end, what is front end, this is not enough because your data need to be stored somewhere. You need somewhere to keep your data, right? You're not going to build static website like restaurants menu or your cat photos. I think for your cat photos is fine, but if you are building a restaurant website, you need to constantly update the menu, and then you also need to constantly update the price, for example. So just give me a sec, yeah. Just give me. Okay, all good now. All right. So the next thing that you need is actually a database. Okay. So database is for you to store your data on your website. Now there are two major types of database. You have structured database and you also have unstructured database. Now unstructured database are those that you use it to store unstructured data. For example, text data or some data that you do not have any prior information about the structure. Most of us were using structured database, and the most popular one given are MySQL and also SQL servers. Now, SQL stands for Structured Query Language. Basically, everything that you see in SQL, you are looking at it in a table form. So, if you have a less rigid or you don't require things like fixed format, or you don't really know what is the format beforehand, then we will recommend you to use another type of database, which is called the unstructured database. Okay. Now, for unstructured database, there are a few types. Number one is MongoDB. MongoDB is the most popular unstructured database, and we usually use it to store data like text documents, or short text, or even different types of data, as long as you don't have a rigid format. And Firebase is a online unstructured database that is provided by Google. So they are acquired by Google. Facebook used to have their own version called Parse, but it is no longer in service anymore. Okay, so when you first started, you have to decide whether you're using a structured database or unstructured database. Now, when you just started, I would suggest that you can use unstructured database, because it gets you started very quickly. And if you use a online service like Firebase, it's very easy to use, and Google gives you tons of free credits at the very beginning and free storage as well. Then later on, you can move on to a more structured database like MySQL or even Microsoft SQL. MySQL is an open source database. Now, whatever we use, right, most of the time for web developer is either open source or is either very low cost, as I'm talking about those development tools. Unless it's specific use cases, then you need to use uh, paid services. Okay, but at the very beginning, you don't have to. Yeah. All right. So once you figure out your front end, your back end, where to store your data, and the next thing that you need to figure out is how should you host your web application. Basically, where do you put your application online? Whatever you have been doing now, right? HTML, CSS, JavaScript, back end, and also the databases, that only ensures that you get a website. Okay, that basically you just get a website on your local machine, in your laptop, but it doesn't guarantee you that you will have your website up on the internet for people to visit, like www.delete.io. So what you should do is you have to put it out onto a hosting platform. Okay, so when it comes to hosting, there are two types. Yeah, the number one is shared hosting. So when it comes to shared hosting, you can choose HostGator, GoDaddy, or if you want to have a more local presence, like for example, you can use Exabytes. So those are pretty generic or popular options that people will use. But the problem with shared hosting is like your physical storage place. So for example, you rent a unit inside a shopping mall. All the basic features like electricity, internet, security is provided, but then you have much less flexibility. For example, if you rented a shopping mall unit before, every day by 10 o'clock you have to open. If you are late for 15 minutes, then yeah, you'll get penalty. And then you will have a lot of restrictions. So same thing goes with HostGator. For example, if you sign up for a PHP package and later on you want to run an additional, let's say, Node.js or Django package at the site, usually they don't allow that. And shared hosting is like you need to share a lot of things with other people. You need to share your electricity, you need to share your bandwidth, you need to share your server's computing power. So you're unable to have full control of your entire web application environment. Okay, so that's the problem with shared hosting. Now, on the other hand, you can also um, try out cloud hosting. Cloud hosting is like you rent a shop lot on the main street. So you have the flexibility, everything that you want. You rented a unit, you rented a lot, you can do whatever you want to it. Basically, you are like renting a server on the internet. Cloud is nothing special. Basically, it's just some services that are provided over the internet for you. Now, cloud computing is like you rent a shop lot on the main street, so you have the flexibility, but you have to sort out your own. Like you need to apply your own internet. You have to have your company secretaries, and you need to apply for a mailing address as well. So that's the problem. The downside of cloud hosting. So that's why a lot of people at the very beginning they choose to use shared hosting, or you will hear these words very often. Like they call it cPanel. Okay, so when you use cloud hosting, you have different options. So for example, we have Amazon Web Services, or more commonly known as AWS. You have Google Cloud, you have Azure. So basically, AWS, Google, Microsoft, and DigitalOcean. Now, Lead is a partner with AWS and also DigitalOcean. So our students get to try out different type of VPN, different type of sorry, not VPN, virtual machine, and also different types of web services that are provided by Amazon and also DigitalOcean. So cloud hosting is good, but then you need to set up the things on your own. Okay, so now you have settled your front end, your back end, your database, and your hosting option. Next, you need to figure out something, which is whether you want to build a web application versus you are building a mobile applications or not. Okay, which comes to our number 5, which is if you're thinking of becoming a web developer, right? This is the next thing that you need to consider. So in terms of mobile application architecture, the good news is it is exactly the same as all the other web applications that you've seen out there. Long story short, let's say you are browsing Facebook from your iPhone. Facebook is sending a similar request to Facebook server. The Facebook app is sending a similar request to Facebook server to retrieve the data that you want, the photos of your friends or the latest comment or post from your friends. Download it to your mobile phones, render it inside the app itself. Similarly, if you are using your Facebook app on your on your Apple Watch to receive notification, that equals to using iPhone or iPad. We are still sending a request to Facebook servers and then to return a response. The response might be much smaller because you're not downloading all the full HD videos or full HD photos there. But the concept behind is the same. We're using the same architecture, so that's the good news. So whoever are trying to learn mobile applications design or who wants to build a mobile application, they do need to know how to build a web application for their backend at least. Okay, so that's the requirement. Now, one thing that you might be wondering is building a mobile application seems like a bit complicated because you have a lot of things that you need to handle, right? So what you need to do is you need to understand the 3 types of mobile applications out there. All right. The very first one is a native application. A native mobile application means that it runs natively on your mobile phone. So for example, it can run natively on your Android phone, it can run natively on your iOS phone. Now an iOS app cannot be say copy and paste and put into your Android phone and expect it to run because it's two totally entirely different operating system and different system architecture. For example, if you take an app from application from Windows, you cannot run it on a Mac, right? If you bought a, let's say, Photoshop, or you bought a game, right? The game can only be run on Windows, and then you cannot. The license might be able to share, but you definitely need 2 different versions, for one for Windows, one for Mac. Now, same thing if you are writing an native applications, you can only use it on that specific platform. So what is the good thing about this? This is usually used by people who wants to build things like game. Okay, you need to fully utilize all the features of a particular phone. You need to fully utilize their sensors, you need to fully utilize their graphic rendering and computing power. Then you need to use something called native app. Now, if you are building something that is more for business use, now once again, let's go back to the example of a restaurant booking website. Then you don't have to really build a native application. You can use what we call a hybrid application. A hybrid application, it looks like a native app, but it's not. We wrap our app, our hybrid application inside a native wrapper. So this wrapper will wrap the app and makes it looks like a native application. Okay, and it still work within your operating system and devices, but you have less worry, you have less hair drops, you don't have to worry so much about the screen sizes, you don't have to worry about so much about the different compatibility. And The most popular one being Ionic, which is again maintained by Angular team, or React Native, which is maintained by the React team. So the good thing about using, you don't have to use both of them, you just need to choose one. And the good thing is you can use it to run, let's say you write a code using React Native, right? The code is able to run on both iOS and Android, yeah, without any issues. Okay, it will be able to run for both sides. So you just need to render and then it will run on both sides. Now the worst case scenario is you are unable to build a hybrid application also. So you think that you're running out of time, you just want something quick and easy, you're in a hurry, you want a quick fix. So what you can do is you can also build a web application that feels like is optimized for mobile applications. Now remember I will talk about Bootstrap CSS framework, right? Bootstrap is a responsive framework for us to achieve that. Okay, so it helped us to achieve that in a sense that it allowed us to write responsive website so that it looks good on our desktop machine, and also at the same time it looks good on our mobile application. Now the downside of using web application is that if you are using web app as your mobile application, then you have to be careful because you do not have. Oops, why am I saying double of myself now? Okay, so many weird things happen tonight. Okay. Okay. All right. So if you are building a web application and use it as your mobile apps, you will lose the icon. So people tend to forget your applications, and then remember once again, Ruben, 80-20 rules. 20% of the 80% of the apps on your mobile phone, you only use it 20% of the time. The remaining 80% of the apps, you only use it 20% of the time, right? Okay, so I'm basically covered the front end, back end, database, hosting, and also the mobile application. Now, if you have any questions, do leave it in the chat section here. Okay, do leave it in the chat section here. Hello, myself and Ruben are there, so we'll capture the questions, and then I'll make sure that I will stay here and answer all your questions, okay, until 12 o'clock even, right? 1 o'clock, doesn't matter. I'll be here, Ruben will be here. So, okay. Now, let's go to the next question is you are trying to begin your career as a full stack developer. So you are now stuck, right? Because you hear from Dr. Lau, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Come on, this Dr. Lau run a webinar also, the browser stuck lah, all these things. So a lot of front end, back end issues, internet connection, things that you need to handle. But on top of that, there's still one thing that you need to remember is you need to pick a stack. Okay, it doesn't mean that you don't have the flexibility, but usually when you work in a company, they have a stack for you to follow. Now, if you remember the DG example that I gave you earlier, right? People in DG, they're hiring for Node.js. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of explanation about different stack. The first one is LAMP stack. So LAMP stack, it doesn't mean that it really use the LAMP. It's just that it's a short form from Linux, Apache, MySQL, and it couples with a P. The very original P here is PHP programming language, and we also have other programming language that you can use, for example, Python, Django, or Perl if you love to. But basically, that is what comprises of the LAMP stack. So the reason why we choose a stack is because a stack is not a product, it's not a package. It's just that a software, a couple software applications that we stack them together. So Linux, given it being your operating system, so you can run open source free applications on the platform. You don't have to pay license to Windows. Apache is the engine that powers the web application. MySQL is the database, and then PHP is the programming language that you choose. But don't forget, even if you choose LAMP stack, yeah, I just have to remind you, the front end you still have to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. No matter what, you have to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And that brought me to the second question that I would like to talk to you is, what about if we choose a language that we can use JavaScript as our backend? So MinStack is used as our backend where you learn MongoDB, Express.js, AngularJS, and also Node.js. Now, people start to move away from AngularJS because of the popularity of React and also Vue.js. As a beginner, I will strongly recommend you to look at React.js or even Vue.js. AngularJS is a little bit too hard, or I would say the entry barrier is slightly higher. All right, and MongoDB, like I mentioned earlier, is a very flexible, unstructured database. But once you have that sort of flexibility, that sort of freedom, you have to be very disciplined. And of course, Express.js is the backend web framework for JavaScript. Now, when you use MinStack, which is the one that we usually teach in our course, the good thing is you don't have to worry about learning another language for your backend. You basically just learn JavaScript, and it can be used both in front end and back end. And that's why you see this very often in large companies, even like, for example, Uber, Grab, DG. They slowly move into Node.js. In fact, JavaScript is the most popular web programming language until today. Yeah, I learned it since 1990s, but it still stays strong and survive. And Python, although it's a good language, but Python is only used for backend. When you want to use Python for front end, you can't do that. You still need JavaScript. Okay, and Python is popular because of data science. We use it in our processing stuff, not using it for our backend web development. Very little companies in Malaysia actually hire Python developer for web application. So that's something that you have to check and do your homework and research on it. Okay, and last but not least, the rich people stack, which is Microsoft.NET. Now, Microsoft.NET stack is kind of expensive because you have to pay for everything from the licensing, from the language tools itself. The language itself is free. C# is free, VB.NET is free, but you do need to pay for Windows servers, and you do need to pay for Microsoft SQL servers as well. So they are not cheap. And underlying tools that we use is what we call Visual Studio, visualstudio.net, and they have different types of traditional model view controller form, web forms, and also SPA, which stands for single page applications. And you have different types of AJAX asynchronous applications or traditional web applications. So this is Microsoft. Okay, so usually we'll stop here, but before I give you a couple of pro tips from my side, right? I actually wanted to give you a career tips from the hirer. Now remember, just now I showed you an advertisement from Magic. So they are hiring full stack developer. So Yi Xiang, he's my friend, so he is a senior developer in Magic. So look at his comments. Now, Yixiang says that he has been screening a lot of CVs lately when he's hiring full stack developer. Now, here are a few tips for fresh graduates. Fresh graduates doesn't really mean that you are fresh grads from uni, but sometimes it doesn't really correlate with your age. You could be a master of computer science or master of IT graduate, but when you're freshly looking for a job, don't put Microsoft Office as one of your key skill sets. Now, even though you're very good at it, this is a programmer role, not an office admin role. So expect this is something basic that you already know. So if you don't really know Excel, also Excel is not hard to learn. If you have questions on Excel, you can always ask your colleague or ask us even. Now, give a rating for your skills. Do not help me understand how good you are at it. Remember this, right? A lot of people, they like to put a bar in your resume and then show a progress bar or rank yourself 5 star or 3.5, 4 out of 5, right? Your PHP at 5 star may be as good as another humble fellow 3 star. So worse, your Microsoft Office skills is the same as your PHP skills. This is very interesting. So what you should do instead is to show him that what sort of software projects that you have done it, and then what challenges you face and what you learn from it. Now, preferably the project is running live on the internet. Even better, it has an open source repo. Repo stands for repository. So if you're looking for a job, this is this comes from the horse's mouth, right? I didn't say that, but this is really they talk about it. And if you find yourself only have a final year project to showcase in your CV, now once again, it doesn't matter whether you're a fresh grad or you're trying to enter a tech job as a developer, you need to have something to showcase. You may want to take some time off to go backpack first, experience different culture in life, and find yourself still want to be a programmer. Now we all know that because being a programmer is it's a challenging job because we're busy solving problems every single day, even like myself until today. I work on a couple of hobbies, startup, and freelance projects. We sort of adopt this culture, like we really like to encourage people to go and try on different jobs. Mm, Modern bosses, they don't really mind, especially if the first 5 years when you are still at your exploratory stage, you're doing a career change, that's fine, but don't switch job too often, like, yeah. If you prefer to switch job, I would rather you take on projects, freelance projects, rather than committed to a job, because it really looks bad on your resume. And Malaysian bosses, right? If you take a gap year like 6 months or a year doing nothing, trying to do some soul searching, exploring life, they will start to complain. Yeah, they will say like, hey, what have you done in the past year? What were you doing? So Malaysian bosses have all sort of different pet peeves. You just have to understand that. Now, I look into hobbies sometimes, so it's okay to put travel and reading as part of it, but I hope to find candidate tell that their hobby is exploring new tech, running open source project that's not part of the school requirement, but basically trying to build something at his or her free time. Now, this is, to me, this is 50-50. If you don't really have a hobby, you don't really have to put out a hobby. If you don't really want to build write codes outside your job, that is fine too. Like if a chef doesn't want to cook, I don't expect a chef to use cooking as another hobby, but I do like the chef when he's more adventurous, when he's more exploratory. That's fine. Yeah. So this one I have my fair share of comment. As a full stack developer, even for the junior role, here's some basic skill sets I expect you to have. Git, which is a version control. So if you heard of the website GitHub, is a website, it's a hub for us to do that. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, I mentioned, right? Every single place that you go, you'll see this. No exception. Bootstrap, PHP, and MySQL, of course. You need to have database skills. Now, the language used between MySQL and Microsoft SQL, I would say 90% are similar, so don't worry too much unless you are switching to another platform like Oracle or Postgres, but chances are slim. PHP or any backend knowledge is fine. Understand different format, JSON, XML, and differences between Post and GET, AJAX, and RESTful architecture. So last but not least, your uni may not teach you some of the things, but I expected you to pick this up on your own time before coming to me. Okay, so this is from the words of a hirer, a senior developer in Magic. Okay, my good friend, Mr. Tan Yixiang. Okay, so now the question that you care: how should you start? Number one, before you start everything, right, you really need to know how much does a website cost. Even though if you are not a boss, okay, you are not somebody who are looking to build a website, you still need to know how much the website costs, because this will actually help you to know how to price yourself, price your knowledge, price your service, not to price it too high, but at the same time, as a starter, right, don't undervalue your time. Okay, so freelancer, website builder, and web design agency cost. A website builder can cost about 0 to 300 ringgit. A website builder is something like this. I think now I can show you some screen already. Okay, website builder is something like this. For example, Wix.com, or you can also go to WordPress.com. Okay, WordPress.com to start building your own website. Okay, so this is what we call a website builder, basically drag and drop with some components ready made there for you. If you were to hire a freelancer, they usually cost you about 500 to 5,000. So you as a freelancer, you as a software engineer, you as a full stack web developer, you really need to know how to price your service. Don't price it too low. That will get you a lot of nasty clients. But don't price it too high also, especially at the beginning. You don't really have the portfolio. So if you are beginner, you try to price it slightly below the market rate. My usual preference is I usually look for NGOs, organization, and offer my service to help them to build something. And then, especially in Australia's Western country, this works very well. They are happily willing to write a testimonial for you, to recommend you to some of their friends. That's okay, and nobody knows that you do that for free, right? Later on you can use it as a project. You're not trying to hide, or you're not trying to lie. You're just saying that you build a project. Nobody will ask you how much does it cost. Okay, now if you are hiring a web design agency, so you need to know how much your bosses charge other people. If you're working for an agency, your bosses charge other people usually 3,000 to 100,000. The range is very wide, I know. So I'm going to give you a website called How Much Does a Website Cost. You can look at the URL here. That's called How Much Does a Website Cost. Now you can go to the this website, click on Get Started. Okay, so you will say how many marketing pages that you will need. Now this is a very old-fashioned, very traditional way of measuring, but unfortunately this is still the market trend. In Malaysia we have companies like New Pages, Super Pages. We have been doing this for that many years. Even when my parents' time, my mom's time, people come and approach her to build a website. They say, nah, I give you 5 A4 pages. You can put whatever you want, and then we'll help you to upload that to the internet. So that is the reality. So let's say we have about 4 to 9 pages. Contact us, team, about, press, terms, FAQ. All right, 4 to 9 pages, okay? And then do people really have to log in? So you would like to have you would like them to use email to sign up and log in, or you want them to log in using their social profile, Facebook. You don't really have login, or you don't know. Usually, I would say to make things easier, we just go for social login. Now, do people create their personal profiles? A profile means that people will use the app to enter information about themselves that might be able to view publicly. So let's just say no. Okay. Now, would you need to accept payments, credit card, PayPal? Yes, why not, right? We might eventually turn it into an e-commerce website. Do people rate or review things? Yes. Okay, let's say you just run a restaurant, okay? Allow people to order food from the website, a food delivery service. They are able to pay online. They are able to leave comments. Your website need to connect with another app or website, i.e. share data with a mobile application. Okay, let's just say we want, right? Because later on we might have driver application. So just say yes. Does your website need a search? Probably not. Okay, we're just running a very small website, so people just pick their categories. I'm just trying to come up with different combinations so you get an idea, right? Otherwise, everything will just click yes, yes, yes. That defeat the purpose. Do you need a content management system? Yes, definitely. So most of the website, you need a content management system to manage the content, your inventory, your product, your price, your blog posts. Yeah, even last time when I built a website for the travel agencies, I actually built a CMS for them. Even though to the client, they call it admin panel, but actually it is a CMS, it's a content management system. So your custom website estimate is about 22,000 to 26,000. So give and take, I would say let's just make things easier. Let's call it 25,000. So this is US dollar, of course. You want to match with the currency. I can say that a dollar to a ringgit. You as a freelancer, it will probably cost you about 25,000 to build. Okay, so you shouldn't charge your client less than 25,000 ringgit. Now, even if you are an agency, this will cost you about 70,000 at least. So agency will usually, speaking from my experience, they will usually charge 2 to 3 times more than a freelancer. Now that's because they need to maintain the companies, they need to have a lot of paperwork, legal process as well. Okay, so number one, when you want to become a freelancer or you want to enter the career, make sure that you know how to price your service properly. Okay, so make sure that you know what is the differences between freelancer, website builder, and web design agency cost. And second thing, now if you want to learn how to build a website, you definitely need to know where can you find free and cheap resources. Okay, you're not going to take those things yourself. So again, later on you'll get this from your slide, so you can look at number one, stock photo. So I'm going to introduce two websites to you. Number one is Pexels. So Pexels is a stock photo websites where you get free stock photos. For example, you want to get something from social media. Okay, so sorry. So everything you want from social media, you can get different type of images. So for example, you like this one, yeah, you tell you the license information. So usually is free to use. Okay. Another one is, I think it's called Unsplash. Yeah, this is Unsplash. So they give you free stock photos. So I think to me Unsplash, well, they both good, and it feels a bit like I would say a little bit more artsy in the sense. Yeah, the just the style of the pictures. So you might want to do a little bit more research on it, or to find the tone and the style that speaks to your website. Okay, but they have a lot of foods. Like let's say you try coffee. Yeah, this is something that I realized. Coffee lah, ice cream lah, cookie. If you're running a restaurant, oh, this is the best place to be. Okay, so that's one. And then what else? The other one is we should look at icons. Okay, this one didn't show up, but I'll show you the website. So if you want to look for icons, you can go to a couple of places. Number one, flat icon. Flat icon is for you to look at, as the name tells you. Okay, flat icons. Flat icons has all sort of different icons, from cartoons, line art, yeah, different style of icons that you can find there. And most of them are free and open source. If you look at this, that I always use in my presentations. Okay. Say this one is city icons, or you can search for ice cream. Yeah. Just can't get over the restaurant website. You see all sort of ice creams that you can find here. Now some people, they will also use this website called freepik.com. Yeah, freepik.com gives you a little bit more than stock photos and also icons. Yeah, so it gives you things like, for example, let's go with ice cream again. Okay, it gives you different types. You get vector drawing, you get different type of pictures, different type of photos. Sometimes you get clip art like this as well. Now, if you are lazy and you don't know how to design, right? You can also go to this website called Canva. I think Canva is loved by everyone. Data scientists, social media marketer. Yeah, I also use that to design our own website and my Instagram posts as well. Right. So this is very useful. It does have some of the photos as well, but it has different styles again, and different dimensions that you can use. So it comes in pretty handy. Okay. And now number three, well, what you need to do is you need to build a side project. Now remember that the job advertisement that I show you, and also the Facebook post I shared with you about magic, about my friends. all the things that people have been talking about is you need to showcase something. Yeah, you don't really have to open source everything, but when they ask you to show something, don't just show your final year projects or your previous projects. Show some side projects or show some hobby projects. Okay, so that's what you need to do to build a side project. Okay, so obviously, right, most of you here, almost 70% of you here want to pursue a career in web development. So let's look at my students. Manfai, previously he was an iOS developer. So as iOS developer, when he worked at Cycle and Carriage, which is the parents company of Mercedes-Benz, he has a lot of issues when he doesn't really know how to build full stack applications, because whenever you need to do something with the database, whenever you need to do something with the back end, you always have to go and ask your colleague for help. So as an iOS developer, learning full stack development gives him the skill sets that he needs to build advanced features for his application. So now uh, he has got promoted to senior already, so he's making quite a good salary there as well. So now you have two options from now on. Number one, the very first option, you can continue to learn on your own. You spend hundreds and thousands of hours. You keep on looking at YouTube for free tutorials, different online courses, but you still get stuck. Yeah, you get frustrated and moving on slowly because you don't have any support, and eventually wasting up to 5 years of your life, and then a lot of time and money wasted because you put it into yeah, figuring things out. Or if you want, you can actually learn from a proven system for full stack development from somebody like myself, who has not only been there, done that. I have so many years of experience, but I'm still practicing it, and I'm now training hundreds of people. Okay, so now if you're interested, take this opportunity to look at what we're offering here, which is the Full Stack Development 360 course, a guided web development program for building great products. Remember, I do not use the word building great applications or great programs, because everything that you see out there online is actually a product. Now, even if you don't have the plans to take on this study at the moment, right, do follow my presentation here, because it will give you a guide, okay, an idea about what should you do, or what people do and what people learn in our course when they want to become a full stack developer. Now, in our full stack 360 certification, we are actually using a hybrid training model. I'll explain it in further later on. It consists of 4 days physical class and online trainings, and it will spread across 2 weekends, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Sovo Petaling Jaya, trained by experienced mentors and also mentored by myself personally. Let's look at the training modules. Yeah, in module 1 and module 2, we're actually looking at introduction to web development and also the front end development. So we'll teach you the basics like HTML, CSS, and also setting up your workspace and tools using free tools. Now, everything that we are covering in this course, we are using free tools, okay, free and open source material. In fact, most of the people, when they are doing web development out there, they're actually using open source tools. Unless necessary, then only they'll pay for specific tools. And in front-end development, we'll actually cover a lot on the JavaScript and also jQuery libraries I mentioned, and also teach you how to build a responsive website using Bootstrap. And when it comes to module 3 and module 4, we move on to back-end development. So in back-end development, you are going to learn how to write programs using JavaScript for the back-end. So module 2, you learn how to write JavaScript for the front end. Now you learn how to write JavaScript for the back end, and how to manage the packages and using Express.js. Now, module 4, we're going to learn how to do components and data mining, create the front-end components using Vue.js. Now, think of this like Facebook, right? You see, Facebook got a lot of very consistent UI components that display the same. Why is that so? How did Facebook actually achieve that? They're actually using a front-end library. So we're teaching Vue.js so that you know how to achieve that. And you are also going to learn how to build single page applications, and also how to handle events and two-way data binding. In module 5 and module 6, you are going to learn how to build things store data using Firebase. Remember I mentioned earlier, right? So you're not going to learn how to set up the MongoDB. All the hassles has been taken care for you, and you are going to set up real-time database just using Firebase itself, and you learn how to perform CRUD, create, retrieve, update, and delete your data using Firebase, and you learn how to link your web applications with the Firebase so that you can use it to write data to the database and also read data from the database. And module 6, you learn how to build a full-scale application. Now, if you remember in the Magic job ads, we actually talk about RESTful architecture. So this is a modern architecture that you see in like Facebook, Grab, Uber, or even eBay, Lazada. We don't really use a lot of question marks in the URL in the URL. You actually get a very nice and pretty URL. So that is part of the features of RESTful architecture, and also we'll teach you how to create API endpoints. Now, what is the use of API endpoints? If you don't have API endpoints, you are unable to connect with another website. Okay, but once you have API endpoints, other websites, your mobile apps are able to communicate with your web application so that the information get exchanged, so they can use it to submit data to your website and also use it to retrieve data from your web applications so that you can closely integrate it with other webs. Now, module 7 and module 8, this is the most important part. You're going to learn how to send email from applications, set up authentications, and learn how to deploy your website to DNS and also register your own domain name. So, like I mentioned earlier, you get free access to our AWS web services and also our DigitalOcean instances. So you get to choose one of them. Usually we'll recommend students to practice with the AWS, so you know the entire process, how to set up a DNS server, how to set up the IP address, link it to your DNS, and yeah, enter www.something.com, and then it will bring it to your own website. So these are the training modules that we are going to cover here: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, of course, and Bootstrap CSS, Vue.js front end, and all the other third-party services from Namecheap, Firebase, SendGrid, and Heroku as well. So even if we if we don't use Heroku, we'll get you to use like DigitalOcean or AWS. So this is the questions that you might have right now. Is there are a lot of different types of tools out there, so how can you be certain that you're actually learning the right ones? Okay, now this is my answer to that question. Whatever you are seeing here, right, you can go and check any websites. Okay, Google, Airbnb, Lazada, is all well documented out there. Okay, you read their engineering blogs, you look at their documentations, you look at their open source projects, you realize that they are all using the same things that you are learning here. HTML, CSS, JavaScript aside, right? Firebase, Vue.js, these are very, very popular. You can also check their repository on GitHub and look at the number of stars that they receive. These are very popular open source projects that people are using it in real world situation. Be it a very large company like this, or even a small humble website like mydrhanlao.com or thelead.io. Okay, so if you look at Facebook, this is how it started. I think when I started using Facebook was 13 years ago, 2006. Reason why I can remember so clearly is that was the year that I went to Australia. So 2006, 2007, that's where Facebook actually took off, and we started to draw things on people's wall, and this is how it looks like today. Right, so that's how it started, and this is still using the same PHP backend, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, so here's some details on the physical class. You'll need to attend 4-day physical training in July, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Sovo Petaling Jaya. So 6 to 7, 13, 14 July 2019. Now, the cool thing about our training is that at the very end of the physical class, you are actually going to have a mini hackathon. So what does mini hackathon means that a couple of you will group together, okay, form a group, and you will actually experience how to build a website in a team environment, and our instructors will guide you from end to end, work with you together, and explain things to you whenever you get stuck, so that you get to build the website up. And you are going to be trained by experienced instructors and also mentored by myself personally. So these are the two experienced instructors that we are bringing to you this round. Edmund, he's currently a data scientist at AirAsia, but before this, he worked as a full stack developer for many years in different startups, Watch Over Me, and also F&B startups. Ziyuan, he is a CTO at Tide Analytics. So Tide Analytics is a company that does footfall analytics. So basically, using technologies to detect how many people has come to your shop physically. So I'm very glad to have them as our instructors, and I will be there to mentor you as well. Okay, now next thing is I'm going to talk about online e-learning platform, which is part of your hybrid learning experience. Now think about is right. Um, every time when you go back, you face questions, and sometimes the demo that you don't understand, right? The instructors have shown you or you forgot. So this online e-learning platform is actually going to help you to refresh. So you go back, you can look at the different types of modules here. So setting up your workspace, skeleton of your website, makeup class, which is CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, and Bootstrap. So everything will be put up on our online class as well. So not only you will have your physical class experience, you will also have our online e-learning platform as part of your learning tools as well. So this is what I meant by hybrid learning. And this is very important. Okay, in this particular full stack 360 class, we are going to teach you how to implement the entire full stack blueprint. Let's start from the front end. Okay, not only you will learn how to build HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Vue.js, Bootstrap, you will learn how to integrate and connect them together with your backend server and also your microservice architecture. Now we'll teach you how to deploy the entire thing to servers so that it can be viewed on smart clients like mobile phones, iPhone, iPad, desktop, using different type of web service. So like I mentioned, we are going to use AWS or DigitalOcean. From the database side, we are going to teach you how to connect it to Firebase as your database model, and also you will learn how to integrate with external services such as Google Analytics, so that you can use it to track how many users come to your website and how many users stay on your page for how long, etc. Okay. So some of the things that our student has built, right, after they have taken the course, they are able to build things like a social and travel platform like you have seen here. So the reason why you are seeing them looking so nicely is because this has been putting on, like, is after putting on makeup. But if we break it down, right, basically it's just some images, some nice pictures at the back, some nicely selected font, and also some layout. So it's not really that hard to build after you have mastered the full stack knowledge. So I would strongly recommend you to come with an open mind, or if you don't have an idea what you want to build, right, at least you look at some website that you really love, like inspired you, or you really love their design, you really love their user experience, and bring it to the class. We'll explain to you how it was built. And for majority of them also, they are looking to revamp their old school corporate websites. So some of the corporate people who join our class because they really want to get rid of their ugly admin panel, they just want to get rid of all the old school stuff, and they want to build new things. Okay, they want to give it a fresh look, so they revamp old school corporate websites and then turn it into modern design website like this. Okay, again, this is not hard. Once you get the right template, it should be very easy to wire things up. This is another student of mine, Sen Long. He's now COO in Money Match. He says that he believed that it wouldn't be Money Match if it wasn't for the full stack class. The knowledge that he has gained today from the class is got him to where he is today. So basically, Money Match is a fintech company, and he grew a startups from zero transactions to today, which they are handling about 220 million transactions daily. Okay, now although I talk about physical classes, I talk about good things like you can come for the class and your mentor, your instructors, and also online videos, right? But still, you have a dilemma when it comes to physical classes, is that you're shy, right? Sometimes you just didn't really get to ask question during the class because you're scared that you'll slow down the entire class, and also you try to revise some of the key concepts, and you try to build things on your own. You're okay with the labs, but when it comes to like building your own products, building your own website, web applications, or you go to work, you sort of like don't know what to do next, right? So in order to address that issues, we have two solutions for you. Okay, number one, we're giving you access to our student-only private support group. So how does this work? With our student group, it will save you time from doing all sort of googling, trying to understand documentation. Now, if you haven't done this before, right, web development is, I wouldn't say it's difficult, but is troublesome slash cumbersome because the version keeps changing. So sometimes you don't really know which is the latest version of JavaScript, which is the latest version of jQuery, what works, what doesn't. So it saves you time from Googling. With this support group, you can come and ask questions. Now we have two modes of support group. One is in Facebook group, so you can ask questions, and sometimes people will ask things about uh, job recruitment even, or how do you solve a particular technical problem. So usually our mentors, our other students, our peers, they will be there to help you so that they will answer your questions pretty swiftly, pretty quickly. I'll be there as well. And if not, we will also have a Slack channel. Okay, a Slack channel is like a MRC, it's like a ICQ messenger type of environment where you can chat with your alumni, other people in the same class who have taken Full Stack 360, or even myself, Edmund and Ziyuan interactively in near real time. So whenever we're available and we're online, we will usually answer those questions. And the other peers from our network, they are very happy to share their experience with you as well. Okay, so what you actually get out of this program is you get a kickstart with a clear blueprint that I mentioned earlier, the full stack blueprint. They'll teach you how to build your own product, and you are able to identify the right stack of technologies and talents that need to grow or work inside a technical team. And if eventually you join a team, whether it's a startup or corporate, you have the confidence to lead the technical team to build the next unicorn startup or unicorn company. Okay. So to recap what's in the program, so you have 4 days physical class with myself, Edmund, and Ziyuan, and you get online e-learning platform, you get all the course materials. Now we will also give you all the source code for the lab practicals as templates, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Basically, you just take whatever you learn in the class and then you can use it as a template to build your websites. So if usually when people sign up for these sort of courses outside like corporate trainings, they are paying like 10 to 15,000 for similar courses. Now, you also will understand why people are paying like 5 to 6,000 just for a front end course. If you do a quick search, right, those sort of front end development, UI development course, HTML, CSS, JavaScript is about 6,000. Yeah, that's the market rate. Okay. Now, another question that you might have in mind is that what about, when you usually people like when I graduate the class, I'm fine, but after the class you have other questions. Okay. Now here's something that we are going to offer you as well is a lifetime warranty. Now this lifetime warranty, how does it work? Lifetime warranty will cover three main things. Number one, you get lifetime access to the physical class refresher. So meaning that if you after you have graduated, so we are currently recruiting for the July intake, so you're enrolling for July intake. Our next class should be, let's say, around September, October. So after you went to build your own product, or you went to work in a company, right, and you realize that there are some questions that you don't understand, you can just send us an email, say, hey, Dr. Lau, hey, Ruben, Chelsea, I want to come back for a physical class refresher. Okay, and all you have to do is to just come back for the next class. no question asked. It's not like other courses that you have to pay 50%, you don't get lunchbox, you have to sit outside the class, or you have to sit at the very last row. No such thing. You can always come back for physical class refresher, and this is for your lifetime. If this class you don't understand, you can always come back for the next class. And when you face new problem with the latest version of Node.js whatsoever, right, as long as you face problem in your career, in your job, in your own work even, you can always come back for physical class refresher. We're more than welcome for that. And your access to all the online e-learning platform. So for example, currently you are learning, let's say, Node.js 10, all right, and next year is upgraded to Node.js 11. We wouldn't tell you that, oh, sorry, because we have upgraded to a new version, you lost access to all your old videos. No such thing. We are always constantly updating our content and putting in new content in there. So if there's any questions, any problem, you can always receive the latest update whenever we make changes to the e-learning platform. And of course, you can keep the access to your Slack and Facebook private group, because that is where your little circles, you mingle around with our community members, you mingle around with your alumni and other seniors who have taken the class, so they are able to help you. And not only they are web developers, they are startup founders, they are digital marketers, they are data scientists like us. There are many different professions, and they come from different industry, oil and gas, engineering, so on and so forth. Okay, so this is, personally, I think this is one of the best we offer. Okay, one of the best thing that we offer. Okay, now you do remember that earlier on I mentioned, for those of you, thank you very much, you stay till this end, and we are going to give you a special webinar bonus, right? So remember I mentioned that Ruben is always there to help me out whenever we have any issues, whenever we need somebody to back us up. And how does he do that? Ruben is an expert not only in music. Okay, he runs a website called audiomentor.com, but he's actually a digital marketer. So he's our head of marketing, and he handles all our marketing activities. And how do we do that as a tech company? He does that by using analytics. I'm a data scientist, we're a data driven company, so we really take data numbers very seriously, and you should do that too. So how do we do that? We're using Google Analytics as our tool. So in this special online course called Web Analytics Primer, Ruben will actually teach you. This is an online course, by the way, so you can learn it at your own time. Ruben will teach you all the tricks from setting up Google Analytics. We will teach you how to set up Google Analytics using JavaScript during the class, but he will teach you how to set up the analytics itself, not the code itself, but how to set up, analyze the numbers, the funnel, look at the conversion rate as well. Okay, so this is a special webinar offer for those of you who, you will only get it if you sign up through the webinar tonight. All right, Web Analytics Primer from the Marketing Sifu, Ruben. Okay, so to recap, this is our Full Stack 360 certification program, a 4 days class, 6 to 7, 13, 14 July 2019. It's a full day course, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sovo Petaling Jaya. Trained and mentored by myself with the 2 experienced mentors I mentioned earlier. Now, on top of that, we're going to give you access to all the online training videos, source code and templates that you can take it and use it immediately and apply it for your own website or your web applications. Private support group, lifetime warranty, and of course the webinar special for tonight, Web Analytics Primer. Learn how to use Google Analytics effectively so that you have a cutting edge advantage over the other web developers who don't know how to analyze. They only know how to install Google Analytics scripts, but they don't know how to set up Google Analytics. That's the difference here. Okay. Total value of the entire program is 13,000. So if you sign up tonight, well, you only have to pay 3,899 ringgit, 3,899. So I believe Ruben will paste a special link in the chat section. Okay, so you have to use this special link to register and get all the bonuses from tonight. And now I'm happy to take any question and answer. So feel free to post it here. I'll answer them. And thank you, Debashis. I hope really glad to hear that you enjoyed the session. And once again, guys, very sorry for the technical glitch that happens earlier. I'm happy that you follow us through to here, and we managed to finish the entire webinar kind of on time. Yeah. So yeah, Ruben, can you help to type some of the questions here so that I can answer them? Is Postgres SQL a backend? No, Postgres SQL is just a type of SQL database. So I can show you Postgres SQL. Okay, so you go to postgresql.org. Is also a type of open source relational database as well. Now, when every time when we talk about open source, right, uh, you you don't think of it in such a way that, oh, open source is not good, open source is nobody is supporting it. Usually open source community is very strong, yeah, especially those popular ones like Postgres, MySQL, and they have different enterprise version as well. Okay, so you should if you look at the release history and you look at them, they are always very updated, and they have different types of events, meetup, so it's well supported, so don't worry, and it's open source and free, so you should use that. Oh yeah, Ashi, right? I believe. Yeah. At the end of the program, yes, you get a certificate of completion. We do give it. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mention that earlier. Yeah. Thanks, Ruben. Yes, I'll be signing it. That's right. Santa Claus say, in your entire career, you and your team always need to know front end, middle to back end to provide solution. So you're trying to understand why would people limit themselves to front end or back end only. Um, from my experience, right, people who limit themselves to front end usually, they are like more visuals, more designers, and they don't really like to touch things like back end coding, programming. It's like they're phobia to it. And same thing for people with back end, they're very logic driven. So I'm a good example of a typical back end developer. So front end art design really not my thing, but I learned because I love the part. I love UI, I love UX, I love to see beautiful things. So I managed to overcome that sort of. I don't hate it at all, but it's just that if I were given a choice, I would still fall in love more in back end. But when it comes to technologies, I'm really agnostic, and I enjoy doing all sort of coding, front end, back end. Can a person start his coding career from web development bootcamp? Science degree is a must. Okay, so let me take a sip. So this is gonna be an interesting question. Now, coding career from web development bootcamp or full stack 360 is sort of like accelerated program. So the way we deliver our courses is that we make sure that you fully utilize your time. You get to learn the technologies. Now, 4 days is equivalent to about what 32 hours plus 6 8 hours of videos. You really get a solid 40 hours of training from us. On top of that, coupled with your own practice, right? So definitely you can start your coding program from web development bootcamp, definitely, especially if you are becoming a freelancer or you are joining a startup company. But disclaimer though, computer science degree is not a must, IT degree is not a must, but when you work in a corporate, it is the entry requirements that they use it to filter you. Okay, so if you're working as a freelancer or you're working as a in a startup, that's fine, that's absolutely fine. But if you plan to work in corporate companies, they do need to require you to have a minimum degree. Sometimes they don't really require you to have a ITCS degree, but at least you need to have a relevant degree, or you have to go through the hard way to show them like, hey, I can deliver, I can do stuff. Yeah. If I want to go into mobile programming, should I learn web development first? Yes. At the minimum, you need to learn how to build back end, because mobile applications, right? Mobile apps, yeah, mobile programming is only handling the front end. Now, whenever you open an application on your mobile phone, right? Let's say you open LinkedIn, you open Facebook, you open Gmail. It's just a front end. It's mobile application front end. It works the same like a website or web applications. The main difference is after you have pulled the data, how do you render it? Instead of rendering it on a website, I'm now rendering it on my mobile applications on my mobile phone. So that's the key difference. But the back end, we are still using PHP, we are still using JavaScript or Node.js to be precise, and we are also using C Sharp, or we are using PHP, C Sharp, yeah, uh, Node.js for example. Okay, so you definitely should learn web development first, but if you are learning mobile programming, right, then you just have to learn mobile programming plus backend. HTML, CSS is relatively easier. HTML, CSS is not even a programming language. They are just markup language, and style sheets define some colors, some fonts. So you just need to know how to work around with the settings. That's all. Okay. Uh, Stanley, yes, we'll share the slide for to recap the content. Ruben will send it out later on. Have you heard of Art Academy? Yes. Do you have questions regarding Pony FTW? Any particular questions on Art Academy? Art Academy, yeah. Uh, Another questions. How long does it take to build a web and mobile application respectively, like Damakan, without payment gateway? Actually, payment gateway is considered the relatively easier one. Yeah, compared to the other things that you are building here. Okay. So web and mobile application. So let's talk about the web first. If you were to build something like Damakan, the back end will be like you're handling the orders, you're handling the central kitchen, you're disseminating the orders, and also delivery. So that part, I would say, if you are experienced, it will take you about 1 month, including planning and also executing it, writing the code, and then another good 1 to 1.5 months just to build the mobile web application, and also integrating the mobile web applications together with your backend. So give and take, not on a very tight schedule, and you are working on it alone. A good 2 to 3 months full time is necessary, including testing and a lot of iterations, of course. Yeah. And Pony, if you have questions about Academy, feel free to leave us there. I guess you pretty much want to know about the different type of structures, or online versus physical class, or that type of supports, for example, right? If a startup founder itself is a professional programmer or coder, does it mean that you'll be totally cost free to create a website applications? Okay, I have a favorite analogy of that. So today you are somebody who, let's say you work as a chef, right? You work as a cook in a hotel, in a 5-star hotel, or in a Michelin 3 stars restaurant. So you decided to open a restaurant on your own, right? You quit. You quit the Michelin restaurant, and then you decided to open up your little cafe. So it will be totally cost free for you to cook, for example, right? To make a coffee, to cook something, that's fine. But you still need to get all the equipments, right? You still need to get all the utensils. I'm not talking about setting up the shops and stuff, but you still need the tools, right? So building website is also the same. If I know how to code, like I'm usually the CTO in the startup, and then I get a co-founder as a CEO. My journey is a bit different. Usually people, they are the other way around, right? But I usually go and find somebody to manage and run the business for me. Now, does it mean it will be totally cost free to create website application? The cost will be very low. You need to pay about 80 to 100 ringgit per year to register your domain name, like your .com. So the cheapest one can be about 8 to 10 US dollar, and the most expensive one can go as high as you want. So usually it's about 10 to 50, around this range for a domain name. And also you need a place to host your web application. So you either go for shared hosting, which is a monthly ongoing payment. Domain name registration is yearly, annually. Web hosting is ongoing, monthly. So you have to pay about give and take, right, 5 to 10 US dollar per month. Yeah, so at the very beginning, you might get some free credits here and there, yeah, but not much like usually. And then yeah, that's a primary cost. And of course the most expensive cost is the time that you putting in to create your app. That's your time cost slash opportunity cost. Now if you as a startup founder, you put in too much time into building the application, you also will lose out the time to execute your business as well, right? I made similar mistake before. Like I really love my product. I've seen so many startup founders like, oh, this is my baby. I love my product. I must polish it until very nice before I can show it to people. But in web development, it doesn't work that way. It's usually goes through a lot of many iterations, improvement, code changes before you've seen the last version. Like the Facebook example that I've shown you earlier, right? Yeah. Any other questions? Hey, do let me know if you have any other questions. So I'll be here for another couple of minutes. I'm happy to answer your questions. Hey, that's a good question. If we use Node.js, do we still need to use other language like PHP, Rails, etc.? Short answer, no. Node.js, PHP, Ruby on Rails, Python, Django, ASP.NET C Sharp, they are all different back-end languages for us to build our back-end applications, okay? Now, if you, the reason why we teach Node.js is because it's the most popular language and you learn JavaScript on the front end, you can use it on the back end. That's the primary reason. Number two, as a beginner, as a newbie who wants to enter the career of a full stack web development, right? You don't want to be swamped with all sorts of different languages. And number two, you don't really want to pick a language that is not hireable, okay? Meaning that you want to have the language that gives you the highest ROI. So if you learn JavaScript today, you learn PHP, you want to make sure that you will definitely get a job in the shortest amount of time. Now, if you learn something that is less mainstream, like for example Ruby on Rails, Python, Django, they're very very niche. So only special people. I'm not saying special extraordinary people, but usually normally people use PHP and JavaScript most of the time. PHP is still the most popular one. So yeah, that's what you need to be aware of. And the good things about microservice architecture that I've shown you earlier, right? The full stack blueprint is that you can mix and match the different language of your own choice. So if you have a particular web application built using MinStack, it doesn't mean that later on you cannot work with another person who are using LambStack, for example. All you have to do is to make sure that you have an API that allows programs of different languages that can speak to each other. So, okay, so that's the secret here. And once again, guys, gentle reminder, you need to use the special link here to sign up so that you'll get all the bonuses that we mentioned tonight. So if you are coming from a corporate companies and this cost is 100% HRDF claimable, okay, if your company is a HRDF member, so you make contributions to HRDF scheme, then you can claim it. On an average, how long do you take to learn Node.js? Okay, good questions. Now, if depends on how much time you are willing to put, right? When you pick up a new programming language, if you don't have a programming background, let's say I'm just saying you have zero programming background, you need to get your head around those basic programming skills. So basically, like what is a loop, what is an array, what is a string, what is an integer, so the basic data types, the data structures, and also some logic flow. So that will take you about a good 1 week just to pick up the fundamentals of programming. And then from there, you take it to Node.js. Node.js itself is not hard. Node.js itself is basically just JavaScript running on the back end. So you take whatever you learn from the first week, and then the second week you focus on Node.js as a back end service itself. And week 3 and week 4, you focus on the other frameworks that's built on top of Node.js. For example, Express.js. You can use Node.js to build a website, but it will not be as effective unless you are using the web framework called Express.js. So week 3, you will learn a lot on, you focus on Express.js, how does web application, and that's the time where you need to learn a lot of concepts about web development and web architecture in general. And then week 4 onwards, then you practice. So I would say if you want to become a very solid developer that know how to use Node.js and build websites, you need at least a good 3 to 6 weeks. Now if you just want to pick up Node.js, yeah, 2 weeks is fine. But usually people pick up Node.js because they want to build applications, especially real-time web applications like chat applications, for example. So that is when you need to spend a lot more time into understanding how a website works, how a web application works, and then you implement them using Node.js. Alright, guys, I'll be here for another 1-2 minutes. Do let me know if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to answer them for you. Otherwise, thanks for your patience and spending your Wednesday evening with us. All right, so I believe that everybody has no further questions. I'm glad that I have managed to answer all of the questions. And if you do have any, oh yeah, Santa Claus. I think the course has good foundation for full stack career. I'm hiring those developers. Do let me know if you have a list of good graduates. Sure, sure. Okay. What are your personal reviews for the course provided by Academy and their syllabus? Okay, sure. We can quickly go through them. Yeah. So if you look at Academy, you realize that it's 100% online coding bootcamp. So they have different programs like I mentioned earlier, right? They have full stack programs, they have front end program, and also they have back end programs. So if you look at the things that they teach, right? Uh, the front end part is pretty much the same. Okay, HTML, CSS, basically any coding bootcamp, any full stack courses will teach you the same thing. And you look at JavaScript programming and also the DOM models, React.js, and Ruby on Rails. So the only difference, let's say, I'm not trying to compare or anything. So when you choose a program, right, I'm very concerned about two things. In Malaysia, is that do you have the time and commitment for online bootcamp like this? Because the reason why we provide let's just go back to the funny lady picture. Let's just go back to the very last slide. Now you realize that our physical class, our physical contact hours is only 4 days, right? So meaning that you come to our physical class for 2 weeks, 2 weekends, Saturday and Sunday. And for online courses, usually their completion rate is about 20% to 25%. The dropout rate is actually quite high because compared to even physical boot camps or even tertiary degrees, that's because the things happen in your life, so you don't really have the commitment to sit down in front of the screen to look through all those things. And support is another thing. And last but not least is your employability. So we are teaching Node.js and JavaScript, and they are focused more on Ruby programming and Ruby on Rails. So yeah, you can take a look at the demand for Ruby on Rails in Malaysia, and then you can speak to different developers, even different bosses if they are hiring, and you can ask them what are their rationale behind of using PHP or using other languages instead of using Ruby on Rails or Node.js, for example. So I think that's something that you can find out. Other than that, but I do realize that in the React.js development part, right, if you take a look at it, when they teach React, actually they are teaching Node.js, NPM, and you can see that it's actually quite an essential part that you still need to learn a bit of Node.js. It's just that the other side, they don't focus too much on the JavaScript, they focus more on the Ruby programming. Yes. So exactly, that's my personal opinions when it's more like uh yeah, I'm telling you how should you pick a program. And Stanley, during the course, may I know how deep we are going learning for specific skills like setting up AWS? Okay, Stanley, during the course itself, right? Let's say during the duration of 4 days and also all the online videos, we'll make sure that you get to the stage that you know how to set up everything. Okay, meaning that after the class, I want to make sure that you are able to do everything that we have teach you independently on your own, so that you are able to set up and get a web application up and running by yourself. Now, if you want to go deeper, for example, setting AWS, let's say setting a spot instance, for example, right, or set up automatic scaling when the user like hit 500 users or 500 connections, and then send you an email, trigger alert. That's fine, we can teach you also, but a lot of the in-depth skills will only teach you later on once you have mastered the fundamentals. So a lot of our students, what they did is when they move on to second stage of their project, whether is it their own startup project or their career, they come back for a refresher, and the instructor will help them further. So I think in a nutshell, uh, we will cover all the bases that you need to know, and then we'll go deeper case by case basis. So some people, if they wanted to go deeper, let's say in React.js or in Vue.js, then we will share with them a lot more different resources. The good thing about this sort of 360 courses that we have is, if you realize from our website, we have 360 courses and we have 1 to 2 day courses. So 1 to 2 day courses is more targeted to those people. They already know what they want, like they want to learn machine learning, so they come for our machine learning 1 or 2 days course, and then they get into machine learning. But for 360 courses, we give you a 360 overview of everything that you need to know to become a full stack developer, and then you can choose whichever pathway you want to go. Hey, no problem, Stanley. That's what we are here for. Okay, do let me know if you have any further questions. If you have anything that you didn't get to ask during tonight's sessions, you can always email to Dr. Lau, DRLAU at thelead.io, or Ruben, REUBEN at thelead.io. I'm very glad and very honored to be here to be sharing my experience in full stack web development with you. And also I hope that everybody after tonight you get a clearer pictures about full stack web development, and most important thing, you get to realize that the different skill sets that you need, and you yourself are more comfortable in terms of picking your future career path. Now, as a closing remark, I do agree that there are a few things that I always say, right? Number one, every company is going to become a data company. But more important thing is programming knowledge, able to read code, able to understand HTML, CSS is going to be like the English of the next generation, meaning that in future everybody needs to have their own website, whether it is for your work, whether is it for your LinkedIn, for your WordPress, for um, your, your mom and pop brick and mortar business. It doesn't matter, but the increasing use of HTML, CSS, JavaScript in our daily life is just like the increasing use of English language in the past 10-20 years. So yeah, and so uh, later on we'll send you the slides, so use that as a reference, as a guide to improve and continue learning along the way. I'll see you in the next webinar. Thank you and have a good night.